My first guest is Mustafa Barghouti. He's the Secretary General of the Palestinian National Authority. Appreciate you joining us, Mr. Barghouti. How do you explain the fact at the very outset that we saw celebrations after the Iranian military response 2 days ago, Hamas praising it as a heroic missile strike on Israel? Are you endorsing this kind of politics of retaliatory strikes? And if Iran engages in ballistic missile strikes on Israel and Hamas celebrates, what do you expect Israel to do? Is Hamas going to celebrate when missile strikes are directed at Israel?
This is a reaction to Israeli government and Israeli generals and Israeli people celebrating the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh and the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah and the bombardment of Lebanon. This is the response to what Israelis first do. You know that Israelis spread and distributed sweets all over Tel Aviv and Haifa and other cities, celebrating the killing of Hassan Nasrallah and celebrating the killing of Palestinian leaders? They did that. So what do they expect? That's not the way to discuss the matters. The way to discuss the matters is to ask, how can we get to peace? And the way to peace is by ending occupation.
Okay, I'm going to come to how can peace be brought, but over the last couple of days, Mr. Barghouti, every day it appears that if anything, this war could now be escalating. And whenever we've had Israeli guests on the show, they say this is a war they didn't start. It was started by Hamas on October 7th. Your response, do you believe that this war has now spiraled out of control?
Yes, it is spiraling out of control because of Netanyahu and his fascist government. 7th of October was a result, not a cause. The cause was the Israeli continuous occupation for 57 years of West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. And the cause is the fact that we are subjected to ethnic cleansing since 1948. Netanyahu refused all offers to have a complete ceasefire, although the Palestinian side accepted it. And more than that, he is continuing the war on the people of Gaza. He has killed already 51,000 people, including 17,000 children. And he's now expanding the war to Lebanon and now expanding it to Iran. In my opinion, he's trying to drag the whole region into a terrible regional war, which is very dangerous.
So you're blaming Netanyahu squarely for this escalating conflict. The Israelis, as I said earlier, are blaming Hamas, saying it was Hamas which was responsible for the unprovoked terror attack of October 7th. All of this started on the 7th of October. That's where the chronology begins.
Look, what can justify killing 51,000 Palestinians, mostly civilians? What can justify killing 17,000 children? What can justify ethnically cleansing 2.2 million people in Gaza that are still subjected to Israeli bombardment? Every day Israel kills between 60 and 100 more people. No, the 7th of October was not the reason of what we have today. The main reason is the fact that Netanyahu refused to end the occupation of Palestinian land. The main reason is that Netanyahu destroyed all peace possible agreements. The main cause is because Netanyahu has expansionist policy, and before the 7th of October, he was conducting terrible attacks in the West Bank and in Jerusalem, and he showed the whole world in the General Assembly of the United Nations a map of Israel that included the annexation of West Bank and Gaza Strip, killing any hope for two-state solution. And more than that, he declared continuously that there is no place for freedom of Palestinians. This is the main cause. So you should not be mixed up between the cause of the disease and the symptom of the disease.
But you see, listening to you, Mr. Barghouti, the fact is there are strongly competing narratives now by both sides. Each of you target each other, blame the other for this war, even as innocents are dying. The question, therefore, is what lies ahead? According to Israelis, the very minimum is to ensure the return to a ceasefire is the return of the 102 hostages that are still held by the Palestinians, by the Hamas. They say if those hostages are returned, then at least that could be a first step towards pushing towards some kind of a ceasefire. But there is still no sign of those hostages being returned back, Mr. Barghouti.
How many hostages there are from Israel? 102. And how many Palestinian hostages are in Israeli prisons? 11,000 in the West Bank and 5,000 in Gaza. 16,000 Palestinian hostages, including 860 children, are imprisoned by Israel. Palestinian side agreed 4 times to have a ceasefire and exchange of prisoners so that Israeli prisoners will be released, and in exchange, a number of Palestinian prisoners would be released. 4 times Netanyahu undermined that agreement, including the one that was presented by Mr. Biden, the President of the United States, claiming it came to him from Netanyahu. Netanyahu undermined it continuously. Netanyahu doesn't care about what you call Israeli hostages. He doesn't care about them. He knows that the continuation of the war will kill them all. And he doesn't care, because what he cares about is land annexation, continuing of occupation, expanding of the war. In reality, Netanyahu would not have gone so far if it wasn't for the silence of the international community that allowed him to violate every international law and allowed him to commit 3 war crimes in parallel: the war crime of genocide, the war crime of collective punishment, and the war crime of ethnic cleansing against Palestinian people.
You know, but Mr. Barghouti, you're singling out Netanyahu time and again for his role. I come back to it, the Hamas leadership. What about the role of Hamas? What about the role of Iranians? What about the role of Hezbollah? All of these 3 groups, the so-called axis of resistance, we can add the Houthis of Yemen, are all being held responsible for also spurring the violence. So we are caught now in this endless cycle of violence and retribution.
Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas declared they will stop all military actions if Israel accepts to stop the war on Gaza, and if Israel accepts ceasefire. There would have been no fight with Hamas, with Hezbollah or Iran if Israel stops the war on Gaza. But Israel wants to continue. And now the Israeli tanks are invading the land of Lebanon. You speak about Israel's right to self-defense. When the right of self-defense allows a country to invade other sovereign countries, like in this case Lebanon, when did the right of self-defense mean that a country can bombard the capitals of other sovereign countries like Israel is doing now to Damascus and Beirut? And when was the right of self-defense mean that they can occupy other people for unlimited time, 76 years of occupation? The real problem here is you have to look who is occupying whom. Are the Palestinians occupying Israel, or Israel is occupying Palestinians? Who is oppressing whom? The reality here is that a biased approach continues to speak about the rights of Israelis, but never speaks about the rights of Palestinians. All we are asking for is to be equally treated, to accept us as equal human beings to Israelis and Jewish people. If Israelis deserve peace, we deserve peace. If Israelis deserve security, we deserve security. If Israelis are free, we should also be free.
But sir, if I may be allowed to ask you yet again, are the Palestinians ready to return, or the Hamas ready to return the hostages as a goodwill gesture that can end this war? Because if you don't, Israel will continue the bombings of Gaza, the war will then continue to spread in Lebanon, Iran will hit back, and then we are in a situation, as I said at the very outset, and you agreed, where the conflict continues to spiral out of control.
I will answer your question. The Palestinian side is ready to return all the Israeli prisoners if Israel accepts ceasefire.
You're saying something very importantly. Let me reiterate. You're saying if Israel accepts a ceasefire, you will ensure the hostages are returned right away. Am I correct?
Of course. And Israel would have to release a number of Palestinian prisoners at the same time.
Mr. Barghouti, let me I'll also ask you about another concern as this war spreads, that even the Arab world is no longer supportive of Iran or indeed of Hezbollah and Hamas. They're worried about a radical Islam spreading across the region that Iran has already as part of its axis with the Houthis, the Hamas and the Hezbollah. The more moderate Arab states do not want, Mr. Barghouti, this war to escalate. They too are distancing themselves from Iran's actions and, dare I say, even the Palestinians in a way.
Sir, all your questions, and I accept that, all your questions are repeating the Israeli narrative. But it's okay, I can answer them. The problem is not with Iran. The problem is with Palestinians. The problem is that Israel is occupying us since 76 years. The problem is that 70% of our people have been displaced by Israel. The problem is that Israel has destroyed 520 Palestinian communities and erased it to the ground. The problem is that the people of Gaza are bombarded today by Israel. The solution is very simple. It's for Israel to accept to end occupation and allow us, the Palestinians, to live in a free, sovereign country, like they do. That's the solution. In the past, Israel used to claim that its problem is with the Soviet Union. And then it was with Egypt. And then it was with Syria. And then it was with Iraq. Now it is with Iran. It's all not correct. The reality is that their problem is with us, the Palestinians. But Netanyahu doesn't want to show the reality, and his government and the Israelis in general, because if you put the Israelis and Palestinians on the scene, it is very clear. It is very clear. The victim are the Palestinian people, not Israel. But Israel wants to claim to be the victim. So that's why it's talking about Iran. The issue is not Iran. Iran is a side issue. If the problem with Palestinians is solved, there will be no place for Iran or any other country to interfere.
Mr. Barghouti, for joining me there from Ramallah, I appreciate you joining us and giving us a Palestinian perspective. Thank you so much.